Good morning, church. Welcome to another episode of our Bible reading plan devotional. And the topic for this week is on trusting God. And so we have with us one of our youth pastors, Pastor Mei Fong. Good morning, Pastor Mei Fong.
Good morning.
So we're talking about trusting God, and what does it really mean in today's world?
I think when we talk about trusting God, this term trusting God is often very overused by Christians. You know, especially, I'm sure you can relate to it, especially when we go to someone, a leader or a Christian, we tell them our problems, the things that we are going through. What's the first thing that they will say?
Trust God.
Trust God, right?
Pray,
pray about it, trust God, don't worry, just trust God, just trust God. Though it is, I feel that though it is very, there is truth in this statement, and of course we should absolutely trust God. But I think sometimes we feel that when we feel sad, we feel anxious, when we feel disturbing emotions, we often relate it to not trusting God. But I just want to challenge that thought a bit today, that when we feel anxious, when we feel sad, when we feel disturbing emotion, that does not equal that we do not trust God. And it is perfectly okay to feel all these emotions at the same time trusting God. It doesn't go opposite to one another, but it can go hand in hand. So I would like to say that, trusting God is not about we trust God instead of feeling sad or feeling anxious, but it is actually a conscious decision that we make. It is an intentional decision that we make, that despite of feeling sad, despite of feeling anxious or worry, we still trust God despite of that.
Yeah, that's good. And so is there any particular verse that you think that is appropriate for trusting God?
Yeah, I just want to read out a verse that in Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 7 to 8, that is really a beautiful verse. It says that, "But blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They are like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they will never stop producing fruit." I love this verse because it really gives a visual of how trusting God looks like, a life that trusts God looks like. Have you seen a difference between a healthy plant and a dead plant? It's pretty obvious, right? You can immediately recognize it when it's a dead plant. So I think this verse kind of like show us how a healthy plant looks like. It says that, the scripture shows that when we trust God, we are like kind of positioning ourselves at the riverbank, which is actually the source of life. Right? And because of that, we will actually look healthy. We will look lively, despite of the heat, despite of not having enough water, of the long months of drought. To me, it is actually a very beautiful and a very hopeful picture that despite of all these things happening, trusting God will cause us to look like a healthy plant.
Wow. And so, you talk about this, this verse and the riverbank, and how would, our audience live out this verse in their life?
I think trusting God is definitely an active response. It is not passive. It is not like, we just sit down, just pray, just be in our room, fast 40 days and just pray and do nothing. It is actually a very active thing, trusting God. I would like to share a few examples from my own life, what I normally will do to show that I trust God. The very first thing I do is when I face tough and challenging times, I usually will cry. I will cry and I will go to God and I will complain to Him. I will tell Him how I feel, the things that I'm going through. And why does this kind of action actually indicate that we trust God? When who do you go to when you have problems? Besides God, a human.
Friend,
right? A close friend, exactly. So to me, the fact that we go to a close friend is because we trust that person. We trust that person. That's why we tell them it's a safe space to talk to them about our problems. We know that it won't go. The whole church won't know about it if we tell them, because it's a safe space to trust them. And it's the same as God. When we go to Him to tell Him how we feel, we are not ashamed. He's not ashamed of us, and we are not ashamed. And he knows that He won't judge us. Therefore, it is actually an indication that we trust God. And the second thing that I usually do is be grateful actually. Learn to be grateful in every circumstances and look back how God has brought me thus far. And by doing that, I can trust Him more because I know that He has brought me through the seasons in the past. Therefore, He will bring me through again. And thirdly, something that I normally will practice is I believe in generosity. Generosity is a sign that we trust God. Like we should be generous with our resources, with our time, with our actions, with our words in every season, even in difficult times, or rather even more so in difficult times, because being generous shows that we do not need to hold back. A lot of times we focus on ourselves when we have difficult times, and it's hard for us to be generous. But the fact that when we are generous, we show that we don't need to hold back because we trust God will provide for us.
So lastly, do you have any examples from your own life on how you had to trust God?
Yeah, I remember, growing up, it's just my mom and I at home, and financial struggle is pretty real when I was growing up, especially when I was schooling, because my mom is the only one at home who brings in the money, right, to support the family. So I remember, there are days where we can only afford to go to the shopping center to eat a nice meal like Nando's or whatsoever, maybe once or twice a month when I was schooling. And on a regular day, we would just have one dish with rice at home. That's how we kind of live our life. But one thing I kind of learned from my mom, despite of all these things, is actually to do tithing, to give offering. I see from my mom's life, she faithfully tithe and she faithfully give to the Lord, even though it was hard for her. And I kind of like learned to pick that up in through her life. So growing up, even in schooling days, I will get pocket money, not a lot, maybe 1 ringgit a day, and 1 month it will be 30 ringgit. So I will learn to kind of like tie 10% to the Lord. And I remember my mom used to tell me, like, you do not rob God, and you must tithe. So this is something that I learned all the way until today. And really, I should say that God is really faithful. Through these years, we lack nothing. We lack nothing. We still have a house to stay. We have food on our table. There was not even one day where we do not have food on our table. And yeah, whatever that we need, God has provided even until today. So this is something that's simple, yeah, but yet very powerful to me.
Yeah, so true. Trusting God is really, really practical things that we can do. Yeah, so I hope you have been blessed even hearing on today's topic of trusting God, and from Pastor Mei Fong's sharing. Do continue to reflect even on that verse that she shared on Jeremiah 17, and think about how you can apply trusting God even in your own lives, in your own situations. And so if you're blessed, do leave a comment on which part you enjoyed, and we'll see you again next week.